champion!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So, a good performance from...
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, Pakistan board faces the ire of fans after the first T20 international against New Zealand at Rawalpindi is washed out. Fans are left drenched and their spirits dampened, raising questions of stadium facilities while the board fights to host the ICC Champions Trophy event. And what about the unrest in the team too, the cricketing country facing its biggest test? Speaking of the biggest test, Gukesh is on the cusp of making history at the candidates chess tournament. Can he win it all and shock the world? We tell you how. And how are the so-called dubbed farmers' leagues outplaying English clubs? In only the third time now in the 21st century, England has no club in the semi-finals of two tournaments in Europe. What's gone wrong, and are the rest just better than the so-called best in Europe? I'll explain, but first, Sports 360. Let's start with cricket. In India's T20 League, Mumbai beat Punjab by 9 runs. It was one of the closely fought contests. Batting first, Mumbai posted 192. Surya Kumar Yadav top scored with 78 of 53 deliveries. Chasing 193, Punjab were dealt with early blows thanks to Jasprit Bumrah. Ashutosh Sharma and Shashank Singh put up a fight. No surprises there, but they were eventually falling short. Over in football and the Europa League, in an all-Italian clash, AS Roma beat AC Milan 3-1 on aggregate in quarterfinals. 10-men Roma scored 2 goals in the second leg to qualify for the semi-finals. Roma will now take on Leverkusen in the semi-final. In Formula One, the Chinese Grand Prix practice session in Shanghai was interrupted by a minor fire. A patch of grass was set ablaze on one of the turns at the Shanghai International Circuit. Race control threw the red flag with cars returning to the pit lane, but the qualifying wasn't interrupted. Lando Norris took pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso in that order. Beijing's half-marathon top 3 winners have been stripped of their medals. Following an investigation, it was found that China's He Ji, who finished first, was allowed to cross the finish line by Kenya's Robert Keita and Willie Nangat, who finished second and third respectively. They will be stripped of their trophies, medals and bonuses as well. Indian men's cricket team captain Rohit Sharma lighting up netizens, everyone hopping about, picking and dissecting every little thing that he said on that podcast to one of his first skippers, Adam Gilchrist, the Aussie cricketer who used to captain the Hyderabad franchise under its previous owners, where Rohit played. But seriously, guys, no spicy stuff there, don't stress. Rohit says he doesn't like the impact player rule, while others have said the same thing, in fact, right here.
The impact batter is making a greater impact than an impact bowler.
Asked about India's wicketkeeper for the World Cup, Rohit Sharma says he can try asking MS Dhoni, who's more interested in golf these days, but it'll be easier to convince Dinesh Karthik. Right when asked about India versus Pakistan, Rohit Sharma says he would love for India and Pakistan to play a bilateral series. And before you react and jump, he slips in the important bit at a neutral venue. So Gilchrist could be his first IPL skipper, but no beans spilled here. He's too smart for that, Rohit Sharma. But I can understand why the Indian skipper would say neutral venue for India versus Pakistan, because this is what happened last night when New Zealand took on Pakistan in the first T20 at Rawalpindi. The match got called off thanks to the showers. I guess that happens. PCB were quick to laud the efforts of the tirelessly hard-working groundsmen. And I've been to the grounds all over the world. That job, taking care of grounds, and especially when it rains, is thankless and very tough. But that's not the reason for the flack that they are facing now. The facilities at the ground were poor, and so poor that the entire seating area where fans were waiting for a very, very good contest was damp and soiled. It didn't help that there was no roof anywhere over the stands, so fans were spotted covering themselves with plastic sheets to keep them dry as much as they could. The chairs were made of cloth, so that made things a lot worse. Not the spectacle they were looking for and not the kind of experience that they wanted. They stormed the internet, calling PCB out for its shabby arrangements at all international games and criticizing the board for not really looking into the infrastructure of the stadium. Pakistan has been one of the biggest cricket-playing countries for decades now, a country that at one point hosted matches, international matches, and has even hosted a World Cup. Clearly, the situation has worsened from back then. Post the international ban that came on after Sri Lankan men's cricket team touring Pakistan was attacked. You remember that. It was the year 2009. There was a massive lull in cricket in Pakistan right after, till PSL, or the Pakistan Super League, saw some of the international cricketers coming back in. That was about 6 years later. International cricket only fully returned to the country in all glory in 2020, but of course COVID put a pause button on most tours. But this series against New Zealand is crucial for the optics, for the world to see that it's all back to normal in Pakistan. An international cricket event will be conducted with no glitches and it will be a success. I say optics because just last month, Pakistan board chairman Mohsin Naqvi announced that a tri-series was going to be hosted in the country finally.
The tri-series between Pakistan, South Africa and New Zealand will be an exciting event, and it is after a long time that Pakistan will host such a tournament. Our avid cricket fans and the people of Pakistan will welcome the New Zealand team again. We hope to have yet another competitive series, which is a key part of our build-up to this year's ICC T20 World Cup.
He speaks of Pakistan cricket fans welcoming the New Zealand cricket team, but do they feel welcome at their own stadium? But this tri-series involving New Zealand and South Africa that they've announced is basically in the lead-up, in fact, to the Champions Trophy that Pakistan is slated to and is pushing hard to host in 2025. That's next year. It is the country's first tournament involving 3 nations, this tri-series tournament, after a gap of 20 years. After 20 years, this will be the first mega event. That will signal to the ICC that the country can get back to hosting mega events, especially an ICC event, something they did last in 1996. So this series here, the tri-series, was greenlit at an ICC meeting in Dubai. So a lot rides on this bilateral series now that's underway against New Zealand. If this one goes well, then that's an indication that the tri-series can go on as per plan. Of course, a lot depends on how that is conducted. If things go smoothly there, PCB and Pakistan gets a step closer to hosting an ICC event. But the way in which such an international stadium crumbled under showers in the first T20, with the fans getting the bitter end of the deal, does throw a spanner in the works for Pakistan. And speaking of which, the captaincy issue is another matter that is becoming one of global concern and pretty much a thorn in the flesh for every Pakistan cricket fan as well as the country, with the T20 World Cup around the corner. The drama is never ending. In fact, Babar Azam broke his silence on the raging issue of a rift between him and the former captain Shaheen Afridi, finally addressing the elephant in the room.
I want to make clear that Shaheen and my bond is not recent. It goes back a long way. We support each other in every situation. Our aim is to put Pakistan first and how to get Pakistan's name up in the lights. We don't think of individual glory, and thankfully, those elements are not present in my team.
He clears the air, saying Pakistan comes first, no matter what. And let's face it, egos amongst players. How many times have we seen that for years now across sporting teams, across countries? But like they say, bury that when you enter the ground. That's what Pakistan will hope for. So in many ways, this series against New Zealand is also a testing ground for the entire squad under Babar Azam once again after that horrific World Cup campaign. With retired players like Mohammad Amir coming back into the fold, how well will they perform? How well will they gel? So a litmus test of every kind, that is if the matches do take place as per plans. Now, some of the most poignant moments in sports occur when you least expect it. We always talk of experience, knowledge, and the weight of wisdom outplaying the young and wild. But ever so often, when the young show resilience, patience, and awe-inspiring grit to equal or even overthrow the norm, you know there's something special about to happen. The player I'm talking about is not a winner just yet, but he's displaying all the qualities of a champion. India's Gukesh, the 17-year-old chess prodigy, continues to grow, learn and impress everyone at the ongoing Candidates Tournament in Toronto. Just some days ago, when we spoke of the Candidates Tournament, previewing the top contenders, just as Magnus Carlsen said, we agreed that experience mattered the most, especially at a fight between the best 8 minds in the world. We silently wished, though, that the Indian brigade would prove everyone wrong. And look, no matter the result, Gukesh has shown the world, and Magnus Carlsen in particular, that he is no pushover. Indian chess players are no pushovers and can most definitely punch hard. From barely making it to the Candidates Tournament, if you remember, he somehow scraped his way into the last rung to round off the top 8 just some months back, to now fighting tooth and nail for the #1 spot. Gukesh, teenager Gukesh, has already won the biggest battle. But the war remains, beating the most experienced and dangerous contenders for the #1 position. What does he need to do to win this all? I'll explain in just a bit. Let's quickly set it up for you. First, after a few nervous seesaw moments over the last few days, Gukesh now is in joint lead, back at the top, but with 2 of the best chess grandmasters in the world, Russia's Nepomniachtchi and USA's Hikaru Nakamura. The 3 players are tied at 7.5 points after the conclusion of 12th round. It was Gukesh's victory over Azerbaijan's Nijat Abasov that brought him back into reckoning. In fact, in the 12 rounds he's played, Gukesh has only lost once. So a recap of the format here, it's pretty much like a league format where you have home and away, 2 legs to 1 battle, any battle. Here it's white and black pieces. You play each of the other 7 candidates twice, so that's 14 very intense contests. We are done with 12, so there are 2 more left. The winner after these 2 rounds is the winner of the Candidates Tournament and earns a spot to fight the reigning world champion, Ding Liren. It's so deliciously poised right now. It's a 3-way race to the finish. With 4 victories and 7 draws, Gukesh's performance has been a cut above most. Nakamura has 5 victories to his name, but has lost twice. And Nepomniachtchi, no losses yet, is definitely the man to beat. So what should Gukesh do to close this out? Let's dive in. His next match is against France's Alireza Firuza. The Italian may have won only twice this tournament and is sitting at the 7th spot, but that one win, one of those wins, in fact, came against Gukesh. So this is the one Gukesh will have to crack to safeguard his position. And I'll tell you why. And here's the best part. He will start with white on this reverse matchup, which is one key aspect that goes in Gukesh's favor. He'll start the game, so in some sense set the tone. Because if this is in the bag, then he has the big showdown in the last round with his joint leader, Nakamura, and he will be doing that playing black. There's a heartening fact he will take heading into their previous meeting. Nothing separated Nakamura and Gukesh where they played out a draw. So Gukesh's best chance has to be going for the win in the next round. Anything less than that just puts more pressure. Now, what about the other 2 leaders? It's important to know who they have left to play against, because it isn't just Gukesh's results that will decide his fate. In the 13th round, Nepomniachtchi and Hikaru Nakamura will go head-to-head against each other. Great for Gukesh if that turns out to be a slugfest with a draw, as it played out the first time these 2 faced off. In these situations, order of play is key, so when you play your game, it's important to know what you're going for. A draw, and Gukesh knows he's in it for great measure. But if there is a result, that just puts some more pressure on Gukesh to go for a result too, before he heads into that final showdown. And then, of course, there is Nepomniachtchi's 14th round. That is the tough one against Fabiano Caruana. Caruana managed to hold Nepo to a draw in their first matchup. Caruana can do Gukesh a solid by trumping here and handing Nepo his first loss in the tournament. But if Gukesh holds his ground and comes up with a win and a draw at best, yes, a win is needed to stay in the hunt, then we could potentially have a tie of 2 of the 3 on same points. If Gukesh has to be one of them, then most likely Nepomniachtchi is the other. Then the winner is decided on a tie break where the top spot goes to a candidate depending on a rapid chess round. Exciting next few days, but I say it again, no matter the result, Gukesh has already announced his pedigree, stamped his class, his maturity, the smarts, and has showed nerves of steel to the world watching. A youngster who has been a bit of a headache for experienced grandmasters. A youngster proving all critiques wrong, and that is the biggest takeaway for anyone watching the candidates from around the world. Has English football lost its zing? Has it fizzled out? Is the hoopla not just justified anymore? And why are the football stars not shining so bright for the English sides? I'm asking this because of what's happened at the Champions League and the Europa Leagues. There was exciting encounters, yes, across both tournaments, but despite having three of the best English clubs in both the leagues, none of them really made it to the semi-finals. Manchester City and Arsenal got knocked out of the Champions League, then Liverpool lost to Atalanta 3-1 in the Europa League quarterfinals. That ended England's slender presence in the leagues, apart from, of course, Aston Villa in the Conference League. But when you talk about European football competitions, you primarily speak of the Champions League and the Europa League. And so England's absence from Europa from both these tournaments is in fact quite the shocker. And adding insult to injury is the dominance of Germany in both the leagues. In Europa League, Bayer Leverkusen is one of the top 4 teams vying for glory. And then, of course, there are 2 Italian clubs in AS Roma and Atalanta. And France's only Champions League winners, Marseille, are carrying the French hope in Europa League. Over in the Champions League, Germany has its mark here too. The regulars Bayern Munich are there, but alongside them is Dortmund, a Spanish representation in Real Madrid, and France's biggest hope, Paris Saint-Germain. England fans and media have been quite vocal about England's dominance in football. They do not just brag about the Premier League, they look down upon other leagues too. They call the German league, the French league and the Italian leagues as the Farmers' League, terming the Spanish league as a lackluster affair, citing lack of competition in these leagues as the main reason. But numbers defy this very baseless propping up of the English clubs over and above the rest. Sure, England are second there in the list of most Champions League titles ever, but Spain still has the most, and Italy and Germany not too far behind. You see a similar and more closely fought contest, in fact, between these countries when it comes to the Europa League. The numbers are much more telling here. Spain continuing their dominance in this one too. And despite the failures, those involved in English football cannot accept the losses, can't come to terms with it just yet. So it would seem, as former Liverpool player Jamie Carragher said after Real Madrid beat Manchester City, claiming that Champions League winners aren't the best team in Europe.
The team that wins the Champions League isn't necessarily Europe's best team. Real Madrid's last shot on target was in the 12th minute. Anybody watching this game without knowing the names of the teams would say it's an absolute mismatch and Madrid is the luckiest team to go through.
That's a puzzling statement from Carragher. Isn't the point of the Champions League to find Europe's best? It's like saying a World Cup winner isn't the best in the world. I agree, Real Madrid weren't that clinical in their quarterfinal, but they did come out on top after facing off not once but twice against a quality side in Manchester City. So I'm going to give you another picture to further support what I'm trying to say here. Let's look at the last 15 years in Europe. I'll explain why we're showing you these numbers. England have only won Champions League 4 times, while Spain leads the charge here. Germany and Italy coming in here too. England have won the Europa League only twice in the same span, while Spain have been the clear champions by a mile. Why 15 years, you ask? This is when all the cash spending happened. England splurging on the players, no holds barred, and the spending has been unchecked in the last 5 years in particular. Clubs like Manchester City have spent more than $800 million, whereas Manchester United have shelled out €840 million. No one can quite beat Chelsea in this department. They've invested more than $1.31 billion on their team. So clearly, despite spending so much, the clubs don't seem to have an equal share of success, at least the kind of success to justify this sort of expenditure. Manchester United, the biggest defaulter here. At least Chelsea and City had Champions League success to show for that kind of money, but United have continually disappointed over the last 3 years and counting. So clearly something's amiss. English clubs may be attracting the best of players, and they may be bringing the best of talents and doling out the wads of cash, but the results don't quite match up. Maybe somewhere the issue is they are looking to buy talents and not really grooming them, bringing in a star instead of creating one. German clubs and Spanish clubs, who England call farmer leagues, have a deep-rooted system in place who prioritize in developing talent amongst their academy players. Pedri in Barcelona, Jamal Musiala in Musiala in Bayern Munich, Kylian Mbappe in PSG, Gavi in Barcelona, and many more. So the irony is catching up with the English football clubs. There are some examples of young talents across English clubs too, don't get me wrong here, but maybe there needs to be a larger change in thinking. It isn't only about strategizing on the pitch, but evaluating a plan of it, and that's just as critical. Time for Last Serve. Sport talks about resilience, fighting a battle no matter the stakes. But this German surfer, Sebastian Stodner, takes that to a whole new level. We take you to Portugal and we take you to witness him scaling the biggest wave. The visuals are inspiring and a little overwhelming. Take a look. Makes you think humans are far easier opponents than nature itself. But thanks so much for staying on with First Sports this week. Have a nice weekend. I'll see you again on Monday. Till then, take care.